Welcome everybody to our second season of After the Tassel. Today we have our special guest, Adam Brake, who is a 2016 graduate from Westminster College. He was a double major in business communication and Spanish. So he's going to talk to us today about his career path, some challenges that he's faced since graduating, and really just wherever our conversation leads us. So thank you for joining us, Adam. So why don't we start by telling us about your career path and where you've been since you've graduated?
Yeah, it's been a bumpy ride. It's been fun. Westminster, my last semester there, I was looking, feverishly for a job and just nothing was happening. And I was in a journalism 101 class, and my professor pulled me aside after class and said, "Hey, you're pretty good at this," and I didn't think much of it. She said, "No, I arranged an interview with the Fulton Sun for you. I want you to take it, and maybe you can be a reporter there." And so that was my first job. After, I think graduation was on a Thursday, and Monday I was in the newsroom, and wow. That job was amazing. So it was, that really honed a lot of the writing skills, interviewing, communicating, kind of just built on my Westminster experience. After that, I had a brief stint at the Missouri Department of Economic Development, and then my wife and I made the decision to move back out west to be closer to family. My mom she'd passed away, and we just wanted to be closer to my dad and everybody. So we got my what I thought was my dream job, which was a sports marketing gig in Orange County, California. And it was just interesting because I hated it. I thought it was everything I would have wanted, and it was, it just goes to show you sometimes you don't even know what you want. So that came to an end after about 3 months in Orange County. And then a mentor and friend of mine from years ago, we reconnected in Orange County, and he got me set up to become a nursing home administrator, to work in skilled nursing and rehab facilities, which you generally have about 6 months to a year apprenticeship where you learn under a licensed administrator. You do everything in the building. I was working laundry, working on the floor as a CNA, dietary, business office. You just go through everything, and you have to you take a licensing exam, federal and state. And as soon as I got that done, the company I was with approached me to have me run their building in Douglas, Arizona, which is on the US-Mexico border on the southeast corner of Arizona. So it's literally, my house is a half mile from the border wall. So it's an interesting place to be.
Yeah, for sure, especially with all the headlines in the last 4 years, obviously, of the last administration. So I'm sure you've experienced a lot of different situations down there.
Yeah, it's the border walls. The construction it's been interesting to witness. So I'm a casual jogger. I'll go running in the mornings, and I've maybe not protest, but just because I'm a little rebellious, I'll always run through the construction zones that they're building the wall. They're nice guys. I've gotten to know them pretty well. So
yeah, that's good. Well, I heard when you were telling us about your career path that you wanted to be closer to your father out from California. So are you originally from the state of California?
So I'm from the Phoenix, Arizona area.
Okay.
So if anyone listening remembers, I think it was 2014, the Westminster Mesa campus. I don't know if I see a nod. Yeah. Yeah, I was part of the Westminster Mesa campus, and it was so we have a handful of us that ended up transferring from Mesa to the Fulton campus when the Mesa campus was, when we got the pink slip, I guess. So
Okay, because I was going to ask you, how does a student from Arizona wind up in Fulton, Missouri? But yeah, that totally makes sense. So, okay. Well, before we get started on, talking about some of your roadblocks and, some of our typical questions we ask our guests, you talked about this role within the sports team or the sports marketing out in Orange County, California, and you said you absolutely hated it. I mean, can you tell us, for some of our graduates that are preparing to graduate or that have already graduated, what did that feel like? Can you walk us through some of those emotions? And I would imagine it might have thrown you into maybe a panic because you went to school for business communications and you thought you'd love it, and it turned out you didn't.
Yeah, well, and what I didn't love about it, I don't think was so much the business communication or what I learned at Westminster. I think the biggest advice, which I probably ignored my gut on that one, was, choose good mentors. Any job you're going to go into, it's only as good as the mentor, as your relationship with your boss. And I found pretty quick, and look, I'm not flawless. I made some mistakes. I probably, was about as much, I was probably as big a cultural problem to them as they were to me, so to speak, and in the sense that sometimes I did not get along with my boss or the GM of the team or the owner of the team. And there were some occasions when they would ask me to do certain things that I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to fudge numbers anywhere. I wasn't going to, kind of do that stuff. If you find yourself in that environment, I was lucky that, frankly, I was fired, and I was actually fortunate because I had my wife, I had a 2-year-old at the time. We were living in Orange County. Our rent was like $2,000 a month for a tiny apartment.
Oh, wow.
And the day I got fired, my wife says I misremember it. I swear it's the day I got fired. I got home and she had some big news she had to tell me, and I was like, well, let me go first. I have some news too. And her news was that she was pregnant with our second. And she's like, well, what about you? I'm like, oh, my news is I'm unemployed. So,
oh no.
But we talk about, Westminster teaches about leadership, about the stories, about the journey. And I think to appropriately make that journey that Westminster wants us all to make to grow, you have to have, you have to go into the abyss, if we're talking about Campbell's hero's journey. And for that, it was, gosh darn it, man, sitting on a beach, because that's the only thing that was free that we could do without a job, with a pregnant wife and a kid, it was very humbling. But it also really helped me. It helped me make decisions that I probably otherwise wouldn't have made. It opened up my eyes to, I was focused on, sports marketing. I wanted to be the GM of a team. After this experience, I just opened my mind and said, okay, I'm going to take what opportunities I can. So for a little bit, I got hired. I drove school buses all through college in Fulton Unified School District. And it was kind of humbling to go back to that just to kind of put food on the table. But then this other opportunity came up, so your career will rarely be linear. It's not going to be, this career ladder that's just not true. It's a career rock face, and there's thousands of ways to get around it. And you need to realize that sometimes the abyss and the darkness is the most important part of your journey and your development. Sorry, that was a rant.
No, I love it, because I know there's students out there. I mean, we're in the midst of this global pandemic, and there's graduates that I've even worked with who graduated, this last May, who have had such a hard time finding employment. And I know they are struggling, and it's just, you feel helpless in how you counsel these students, because the opportunities just aren't out there as much as they were, say, 2, 3, 4 years ago. So I mean, and I've actually spoken about this with a previous guest. He's actually an enrollment counselor here at Westminster, Moulet, who was let go from his job, and I've been fired before. So that, and you are very right, that it's a very humbling experience, but it makes you reevaluate your choices. It makes you evaluate your prospects, and you have to learn how to bounce back from that. It sounds to me like you had a friend that said, hey, here's this opportunity. What other advice would you give to our listeners about putting yourself out there or networking? How did you come back from that?
Yeah, and geez, I feel like I became a kind of expert on that because I had no network in Orange County, and I wanted to stay. I maybe it was a chip on my shoulder. I really wanted to succeed there. So I started from nothing. Honestly, the first thing I did, I got fired on a Friday. I cried for 3 days. No, I'm just kidding. Well, no.
I did.
Okay, there were some tears. It was a tough time. So I spent about 3 days. I decided to give myself 3 days to sulk. And then Monday, you have to build a brand, so I had some InDesign experience and some other, graphic design experience. So I made a resume and a business card that were kind of same color schemes. They really popped. I made a website with just my digital resume. So I spent some time there, and then I went to the Westminster, actually the alumni office, and I asked for a list of all the alumni locally. Just put yourself out there. And I think the biggest thing is, people will help you if you ask for help. They're not going to help you if you show up and just try to introduce yourself and really don't have a message, right? Like you need to go and say, look, I'm kind of in a bind right now. I really need some help. If you approach humbly like that, I've found that resulted in a lot more than just emailing a resume, saying, hey, if you need anything, let me know. Like,
yeah,
no, just come in and just saying, look, and tell them the story, your narrative, just your story, no matter who you are, is an amazing story. Tell them the story, because everyone, if you're needing help, everyone loves an underdog. And partly, I think, I'm not, obviously not completely, people aren't just going to hire an underdog for the sake of hiring an underdog. But I found years later, after I got hired with my current company, that, the ownership group who hired me, I still find they still see that underdogness / grittiness, whatever it is they saw in the interview, and that will follow you if you use it correctly, but just be humble. Tell people, hey, you know what? It's been a bit of a rough ride. I really need some help, if even just some guidance. Don't go asking for jobs outright. Ask to do informational interviews. Ask to, say, hey, look, you've been really successful in your field. I'd love to learn what it is that makes you successful, and then ask, I say, a lot. I'm sorry, but
no,
you obviously know because I'm saying.
No, I was just going to say, you're writing down all these terms for all of our students. I think if you ever want a career change, come back to Westminster, help us in the career services office or the alumni office. This is all great stuff.
Yeah, well, and look, anyone listening to this, LinkedIn, I don't know if I have my middle name. I think it's Adam Brake. Like, reach out to me, because an important part when you have to pay it forward. You can't be one of those people that finds their path and then doesn't help others on their path. That's just wrong. And I think that's pretty clearly, being a leader, that's what Westminster is all about. And if we're going to lead people, you need to reach out to people. You need to help people. You need to share experiences. You need to be vulnerable sometimes with complete strangers, just, because that's what they need. Sometimes it's not about what you need. So anyone wants to reach out to me, reach out to me. I'm open to it.
And this is the perfect time to plug our WCCN network. Adam, have you heard about that yet? It's our Westminster College Career Network. It's been around for 2 years, maybe 3, but it's our own alumni network that's similar to LinkedIn, but it's got alumni on there. We've got staff, faculty, parents of students. So I'll send you the link if you're not already on there, Adam, so students can reach out to you there. But it's got amazing communities on there. We've got communities for St. Louis, Mid-Missouri, Kansas City. A student started one from Arkansas. We've got networking tips, all sorts of job information on there. Mandy Plyman, my colleague, and a student assistant have worked really hard on retooling that. So for you, Adam, I hope you can make a profile there, and then we'll encourage our students to reach out to you.
I think I may have already, and I'll be honest, I've not checked it in a while. So
okay,
if you reached out to me and my lack of communication has ruined your career, I'm really sorry.
Oh no. Well, I think you do get messages to the email that you set up. So as long as to your permanent email address, you should be getting communication. But we'll make sure that you're connected on there. So what led you to choose Westminster College besides the Mesa campus connection? Was there anything about our school that stood out to you?
I really, really loved the focus on leadership. You know, and there were some just fantastic, top-notch professors there. You know, I know he retired a few years ago, but Bob Hansen was and still is one of the most important, special people in my life. I still keep up with him. You know, just Dr. Phelps. I never took her computer science classes. I heard they were impossibly difficult, but I really liked her. She had a really high standard. You know, Dr. Tuttle, she was my journalism professor who saw something more in me. I think that focus on leadership bleeds over to the staff. And I really had so many times where staff made all the difference, where the teachers made all the difference. And often it wasn't even in the classroom. Often it was, I was weird because I was married with a kid at Westminster. I was older. So it was just a different experience, but it still felt like the experience because I think people went out of their way to make me feel included.
Yeah.
Professor Del Porto, Professor Salas, you know, we had all these amazing people in the Spanish department that would just talk to me after classes, and it was, you know, the whole experience, everyone lifting each other. You know, you're not going to find that at you know, my other option, which was Arizona State University or University of Arizona. Plus, we grew to love Missouri. I mean, when we talk now about what our home state is, my wife and I, it's our home state. We're adopted Missourians. My birthday this last year, my recommendation was gooey butter cake. Like we're for real. We don't mess around. We watch the Cardinals. We despise anyone other than the Cardinals.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
we're Chiefs fans. We got the whole thing going. We jumped in with 2 feet and have never looked back. So.
Well, and I find that interesting because, you know, usually people from the Midwest or maybe some of these upper states want to become snowbirds and go to Arizona, but perhaps maybe the seasons, you know, affected you too, you know, in addition to.
Well, I love, my favorite vacation every summer is to go out to Missouri. Like we got friends who I like getting a lake house in Missouri. That's my ideal, you know, and we would in a heartbeat, we would come back to Missouri. We loved Missouri. Yeah, sorry, ranting again.
That's great because Fulton, we're maybe an hour away from the Lake of the Ozarks. So
you got Kansas City, you got St. Louis. Like Fulton is legit. It's the ideal place in Missouri.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of, you know, just things working out how they should. You know, I mentioned my mom getting sick. This was while I was in college. You know, and it just goes to show sometimes life just falls into place. The only hospital that would see her for this experimental surgery that may have saved her life was University of Nebraska Omaha Medical Center.
Oh, wow.
Of all the places in the country, it was a 4-hour drive from me. Yeah. So it's, you know, I'm also, you know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. I'm particularly grateful for that because it really worked out, and I got some special time with my mom. And I think choosing Westminster, obviously that was not the reason I chose, because she got sick after I started, but it was just a nice benefit that life gave me.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So looking back on your college experience, because it sounds like you've been affected from, just Missouri, the state in general, the smaller town of Fulton, that Westminster sets in, and the leadership and the relationships you developed with your professors. Was there any advice looking back on your college age self that you would give yourself?
Any advice? I look back as it being so ideal. I don't know if there's maybe I would have ventured out more socially. I don't know. I mean, I made some friends I still keep in contact with today, but certainly I do see how other, you know, fellow alumni have really, really close group of friends. I got a small handful, and I'm okay with that, but yeah. I probably would have made more individual relationships with people if I could do it differently, but
I'm with you there on that. I made some friends with some girls on the floor of my dorm at my university, and we're friends to this day. Not as close as we were, because family life takes priority once you move into that that whole life. But yeah, I those friendships that you make while you're in college are some of the best that you could ever have. So reviewing some of your professional accomplishments, maybe roadblocks, have there been any roadblocks that you've encountered when applying for a job, or really just anything?
I don't know if they're roadblocks. You know, a job search is just climbing a mountain. So I'm not sure if they were just part of the search. I mean, before I got with this company to be in healthcare administration, I mean, I don't know if I still have the Excel sheet, but I had an Excel sheet tracking every place I applied to, writing different cover letters, tailoring the resume, trying to do everything right. And there was 143 of them. So there was 143 jobs that did not work out before this one. And that's why I went back to bus driving. And that's not a knock at all on that. Bus drivers are some of the best people I know. But, for me, I just, nothing positive has happened. And we were, living in that expensive a place, it was just watching the bank account drain. We had our date where okay, we're gonna run out of money on August 11th, so we need to. Or that was a rough time, but it was important,
Does it make you look at maybe applicants or some of your employees, or? I mean, I don't know. I think you said something about, changing your perspective. Has it changed your perspective on, your career at all, or even just your professional life, like how hard it is to even get a job?
Yeah, you know, because I do a lot of hiring right now. I mean, I have 75 employees who work for me, and I think the most important thing if you're in management you can do is, you know, within the first couple of weeks when I started, I sat down individually with each employee and just talked to them about their goals and their vision for life. And it's really easy to make stark judgments. My thing was obviously in the journalism background, it was grammar. Like initially, if I see an issue on your resume with grammar, like in Westminster grads, we don't make errors on grammars, but the real fact is in the real world, people are. You can't just toss people out because there's an error on a resume. Yeah. That's no excuse for you. I know we got some good writing there, so you don't make errors on your resumes, but it's easy to jump to conclusions about people. And you know, my thing, even, you know, because I manage the team of managers, is that we need to look at the story of everyone, you know. So in hiring, it's about the story. You know, you sit down. Formal interviews have kind of gone out the window for me. Most of my interviews, I just want to take them to lunch and talk to them and just kind of feel what it is, how they are as a person, how they're communicating. And if you ask the right questions, you know, you can learn a lot about someone. But yeah, it's humbling experiences make you sympathize with people. And they're important. I can sit down, and when I've had to let people go with my job, I know exactly how it feels to be on the other side of the table. I know how it feels to be on the other side of the table and feel like belittled about it. And you learn from those experiences.
So which brings me to another question. What do you look for in a candidate? What are some of your criteria?
For me, so obviously if it's like a nursing or clinical position and there's some sort of licensure associated, like obviously having the licensure, but for the most part, skills can be taught. Culture, attitude cannot. It's very hard to teach someone to have a good attitude. It's very hard to teach someone to be a team player. You know, you need to look really specifically about the team you're managing. You know, we're hiring for a position right now, and I always use basketball analogies. I'm a horrific basketball player. Maybe some people listening know this. I'm horrible, but the analogies really work in management and business. Like sometimes you got to look for a very specific talent that you can hone in. You know, this position we're hiring right now, I have this candidate that, if you're a fan of the Chicago Bulls in the late 90s, he's kind of a Dennis Rodman. He's really, really good at what he does, and with proper coaching, I think he can kind of be pointed in the right direction. You know, so you also have to look at, most importantly, how does it work on the team? I got a management team of 11 people who then manage the other, 60 plus employees, and they, you know, how does that person fit on this team? And that's always my focus, not what are their skills, where they graduate from, but how are they going to fit on this team? Because everything's just a team. And sometimes you got to realize someone's strengths and another's weaknesses complement each other. And you have to regularly teach your team that, yeah, this guy, he's a Dennis Rodman. And you know what? He's kind of crazy, but he rebounds and plays defense better than any of you guys. And sometimes, you know, especially in a clinical setting, we got to say, like, you know, step back, like these nurses, CNAs, these are the ones who in this basketball analogy score the points. Like we need to support them. That doesn't belittle our jobs at all. And especially in the pandemic, that's been the focus. And I had this talk with my team, like they're the ones who are going to score the points. We have to support them, but we have to do the best at our job. So we can't do their job for them. We can't criticize their job. We have to do our job, you know. So hiring, it's how do they fit on the team? And that's also firing. If you see someone who's all of a sudden just not fitting on the team, you know, we see it happen in pro sports all the time. You know, a pro gets he wants more money or something and he just stops performing. you know, let's see, shout out to James Harden, right? So, he's an ASU grad, so not a huge fan. But, you know, like people start getting egos and they can change over time too. And you have to be ready on the team to bench and to remove people if they're not playing for the team anymore. If it becomes about me for anyone on the team, and myself included, you know, that it's time for them to take a good look in the mirror and have an honest, frank conversation, which as a leader, you need to have those conversations that are tough and frankly, that are personal, and you need to seek those conversations. You need to seek with your superiors, with your team, and just say, what am I not doing right? What part of my personality is not gelling here? And you'll get some tough answers, but you need to fix that.
Yeah, well, what's the saying? Faithful are the wounds of a friend. You talked earlier about seeking mentorships, you know, early on in your career. Now that you're, you know, midlife career professional, do you have mentors on the job that you seek out? That kind of like what you were just talking about, that you can ask, hey friend, hey coworker friend, you know, was I wrong there? Can you give me some counsel? Do you have people in your life like that at work? Yeah,
at work, and you seek them out. Like you have to build those, and they can span over different companies. You know, one of my mentor who trained me to be, you know, an administrator, he's left this company, he's with another company, but I still regularly talk to him. You know, even the other day I just went to breakfast with him. Like I still ask him advice. He asks me advice sometimes. You know, you got to be vulnerable with your bosses. I think our big fear is telling our boss some of our weaknesses, showing them kind of our dark sides, our ugliness, and then having them just say, you know, we don't want you. But in reality, if you have the right boss, first of all, if you're in a position like that and you show weakness and they don't want you because of it, unless you did something unethical, which don't do that, you don't want to be there. You don't want a mentor who's gonna, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. You got to be open with them. I'm very open with my boss, who's become a friend, with my weaknesses. He's open with me and my weaknesses. And when you get the right coach, they just know exactly how to drive you to be the best that you can. And keep your old mentors too. You know, I talked about Dr. Bob Hansen. He's a mentor and a great friend. Over time, you'll have mentors that will kind of almost graduate from that mentorship, so to speak. You know, so I don't exactly call Bob every day for career advice, but, you know, I still talk to him about life advice sometimes. So you may shift roles with your mentors as well as time grows, and always seek mentors, and always be humble enough to listen to them, because they probably know more than you do.
Definitely. And that's something that we hope we're doing with our seniors, is encouraging them, you know, that first year on the job, which, you know, you start to doubt yourself in so many different ways. And now in the midst of COVID, where the job search, the job industry is just so shaky, and it rattles your confidence. So seeking out those mentorships your first year, I think, is critical. So I'm glad you've been saying that today.
Well, they become your advocates too.
Yeah.
It's very rare that they're going to let someone fail that they've taken under their wing publicly. So that's another thing. You're not manipulating outcomes, but if you're truly getting good mentors, especially learning from those higher up in whatever industry you're in, like, they're not going to let you fail.
Yeah.
And those are the ones who are going to tell you the hard things, probably more than your colleagues. They're the ones who are going to tell you, hey man, you're walking a fine line here. You need to fix this. You got to change your ways.
Yeah.
And they won't let you fail. So if you get a good group of mentors, you are also decreasing your chance of failure. So learn from me. I had no mentors in California, and I failed.
Well,
and I failed miserably, and it was glorious.
well, it sounds like you've created a great network out there in Arizona. What are your tips to our listeners for how to network in your field? So you've got the job, you know, you're comfortable, you're working, you're enjoying your job. Do you recommend students continue to network? What would be your advice to some of our listeners?
Just in your field, just seek collaboration, even sometimes with competitors, and that will pay off. And at the end of the day, friends do business with friends.
Yeah.
That was something one of my good mentors taught me. Like, it's, you know, there's a local health clinic, you know, the biggest one in our county we're in right now. And their CEO he's become a really good friend, and actually they've become friends of the family. But he was a tough guy. All he wanted to do though was play racquetball. I don't know why. So for about a year, I was trying to work on some collaborations, and I realized he had no interest in collaborations. He just wanted to play racquetball, and that's completely fine. Every Saturday morning, we'd play racquetball. And then about a year in, you know, he comes to me with an idea like, hey, like, what if we were to have, you know, this certain community program or work together on this? Like, you got to spend time to build those friendships. So, you know, the whole cliche about business being done on the golf course, all that stuff, like, it's not business, it's friendships. And so go out of your way to build friendships with those people, you know, the higher ups in your industry, or, you know, even your competitors, you know, and it never hurts to build a friendship with everyone you possibly can. And it doesn't have to be big either. I mean, there's the president of the Arizona Healthcare Association. We've grown to know each other pretty well. And it started out, he's from Chicago, and I was making fun of him for being a Cubs fan. It started with a minor conversation about how the Cardinals are probably going to win the World Series before the Cubs ever do again, and that 2016 was a fluke or whatever. And it was just a good ribbing, and he gave it right back. But sometimes just little comments like that, if you find out what people like, that can lead to a bigger discussion. So that's really cool. Yeah, and I don't want to walk away from this interview without asking, because I know we're running out of time before our next meetings today. But you said here pre-interview that your proudest accomplishment was the Arizona Healthcare Association Innovative Program of the Year Award. And that was just this last year. That was 3 years after you were let go from your position in California. So what a comeback story. Can you tell us what that award was about and how that made you feel? Yeah, so the award was, and it came kind of out of necessity, frankly. We looked at, I saw that a lot of non-clinical staff were not connecting as well with the patients as I would have liked. In the healthcare industry, there's the scope of practice, right? So it's non-clinical staff really couldn't be hands-on with the patients. And as I dug deeper into ways I thought we could possibly improve that, one of the ideas that I had was, some other states actually have a program where they can have people trained to feed residents who can't feed themselves. Mm. And this actually came from, you know, my experience with my mom, you know, in the hospital. I probably, you know, feeding her was, and she was on TPN, so it was just that little water with sponge. That's how she would have to drink water. But that was just one of the most special experiences I ever had with her. And I thought, man, how can we recreate that? And so I started looking. Arizona Medicare you can have a program. It had never been done in Arizona. I did some research, contacted just randomly out of the blue Vanderbilt University for they have a really strong geriatric program. And I asked them for kind of an outline of what a program like this would look like. They had one. They gave us the rights to use it in the state of Arizona. We retrofit it to our company. We went to the Arizona Nursing Board and made the pitch that this should be a program. They were ecstatic. They accepted it. We're a program, at least in our company, I think we're used in about half of our buildings right now. And what it resulted in is you could do a training and you could get certified to feed patients who can't feed themselves. So I encouraged / made all my non-clinical staff take the training, and then it ended up alleviating nurses. It ended up also helping them really appreciate what we're doing and focus on the why. So I'll have days, I'm running a business, so I'll have days where there's a lot of locked in my office, a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of money talk, a lot of really tense conversations, and nothing is quite like going out and feeding someone for dinner to remind me why I'm there. And that, to create that program and bring it to the state of Arizona, it was a lot of work, but I'm most proud of it because it helps non-clinical people connect, and in a way that we've seen positive results from people just having their heart in this. So I'm very proud of that.
You should be. That's fantastic. Congratulations on that honor. And I know all of us here at Westminster, want to continue to, help our alumni out. And, we're so thankful that you were willing to come on board and share your story with us. And I really hope there's going to be a lot of listeners for today's podcast, in addition to our other podcasts that we've already released. So we're winding down here, and I know Mandy sent you these, our rapid fire questions that we always conclude our podcast with. If you've ever watched James Lipston inside the studio, he always had 5 or 6 questions at the end of each interview. And
I forgot what they are, and I don't have.
Oh, good.
So this is true rapid fire.
Good. So it'll be very, very random, very honest. So I think that kind of speaks to who you are anyway, is, being, authentic. So let's go ahead and shoot those off, and then we'll conclude here. So what is your favorite word?
It's a Spanish word. It's averiguar, which means to find out. I just like how it sounds. Averiguar.
Okay. What is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word. That's a tough one. Geez, it's supposed to be fast too.
It's all right.
My least favorite word. Incapable.
Incapable. That's a good one. What sound or noise do you love?
I got 2 boys, so I love hearing them wrestle and play together. That's my favorite sound.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What sound or noise do you hate?
Cereal. People eating cereal drives me. Like eating sounds. I will not eat with you if you have eating sounds. Even if it's a business lunch, I'll find another way. Like, we'll do something else, because I can't do that.
Yes,
there's so annoying.
Oh yeah, me and my husband, we have these same conversations. Cereal is the worst. I agree. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I'd like to author. I loved journalism. Unfortunately, it was an industry that just did not have opportunities for my family, but that was so much fun. I'd love to interview people and be an author.
Maybe you should start your own podcast.
No one would listen. So
no.
I'd be stuck listening to my own podcast.
Oh, no. All right, final question. What profession would you not like to do?
Driving, bus driving. Great people. I for some reason, a couple years back, I just don't like driving. If I were to win the lottery today, my purchase would be a chauffeur. If I could never drive again in my life, I would be very happy. I just don't like it. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if that's why maybe you like mid-Missouri so much, because we don't have a lot of traffic around here. That might be a...
No, everything about it just bothers me now. I wish I could just sit in the back seat and just get chauffeured around, because I just don't, even short drives, I just don't like driving. It's really weird.
No, it's not. Well, thank you so much again for being here today. Just some great messages for our students, for our alumni, for our parents, just anybody listening. Congratulations on your honors, on your comeback story. You know, we hope to see you for alumni weekends, you know, coming up soon. Our in-person was canceled. I know we're doing a virtual one this year, but hopefully you can make it back to see us, and hope to meet you face to face, you and your wife and your 2 sons. You gonna be watching the Chiefs Super Bowl Sunday in 2 weeks?
We are, and it sounds horrible, but I'm torn because Tom Brady is, and anyone, I'm sorry if you hate me after this, he's like my spirit animal. Like he is,
no.
He is, so I love the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes is just an artist on the field.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady he's the greatest of all time. This guy, just learn more about his story. A 200th, you know, or 199 draft pick. No one expected anything out of him, and he kind of just plays with a chip on his shoulder. And that's, you know, something one of my mentors told me about me is like, you're kind of Tom Brady-esque in that you always have that chip on your shoulder, and you expect the absolute best out of yourself. And so like if they both could win, I'd be thrilled, but I know that's not going to happen. Chiefs will probably win, and I'll be excited. If Tom Brady were to win, I would still be excited.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a close call. Maybe it'll be a close scoring game.
Hey, it's the year of COVID and it's tie game, right?
Yeah.
Weird things have happened this year.
Yeah, well, I've seen on my Facebook feed, people were like, well, when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year and COVID, you know, happened, maybe another win this year will reset everything and we'll go back to normal, like automatically. So I hope that happens for all of us.
No, it was it was a national news outlet, I think, had covered the baby spike during COVID because of the Chiefs win. It was like in October this year, they had like maternity wards were full in Kansas City. So yeah, maybe let's reverse that. Yeah. Sorry, that's a really weird note to end on.
We'll let Clay decide what he wants to do there, but it's totally cool.
Well, you got to keep it, or I don't authorize it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Adam. Enjoy the rest of your day. We wish you the best, and come back and see us when you're in town. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.